Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another little episode here. So we're gonna be putting gauges in. Figured to do a different angle, get in the sun. That's where the warmth is. So we're gonna go into the car and do this. So as you can tell, if you're gonna do this build, you're gonna have to have, just blinded myself with reflection. You're gonna have to have some gauges. The gauges you want are boost gauge and air fuel ratio gauge. When you get this one, don't cheap out. Get a nice odometer. Make sure it's a wide band, not a narrow band. This is going to give you the best fuel ratio that you want, and this is going to be critical. If you want to monitor your fueling, especially if you start like doing your own tuning. If you go past the FMU that we've done and go towards to fuel injection, you're gonna need to tune with this little puppy. I had one of these on my Daytona and I tuned with it and I got up to about, I think I was running 18 pounds of boost. With fuel management, with fuel injection management, this thing is critical. There's a couple times where it started going red. You gotta back off, you gotta turn the boost down, go back and play with your fuel maps to get it to where you're running Stoich or maybe a little rich. You don't want to go run too rich because then you'll just cause fouling issues with your spark plugs, and that's just not a good time either. So, but it's a great tool. You gotta have it. So basically, it's a mess. So I've already done the wiring. Basically, I've got a red and a black. This is going to power up the units. I've got the lights always on, so it acts like the headlights are on or the dash lights are on. You can customize these so that they get brighter or darker at night. I just have them bright max. It's fine. I'm not going to complain too much. This cluster didn't cost too much. It's from eBay. I don't even know if it's going to fit too well, but we're going to try to find a home for it on the dash. And then we're going to try to find a home to run these wires. So, and then of course you got the vacuum line too. So, that's basically the whole ball of wax, really. Let's go do this. All right, so we're trying to find a home for this thing, and as you can tell, it's like not gonna sit very well. The gauges aren't flush. This thing is not a very solid. It's like the gauges are coming out of it. It's so silly. Like you need to have it somewhere. I might just do something like this. It's gonna be poking up, looking silly. It says you can't. This cluster's not a good one. I won't lie. I'm not digging it. It's not very good. But basically, what I want to do is put it in. Basically, there. I mean, it's not flush at all. You can probably cut out pieces here. Maybe cut a nice big hole in the dash right here where the vent is. This vent doesn't do much of anything. As you can tell, I've got it set up. This is a wireless for my Razor, and I use a little USB OBD2 reader. This gives me my readout right here. It's like where my gauge is. So like I have like intake temperature, ignition advance, so I know where my ignition advance is. Gives me a manifold absolute pressure. It's a nice little readout I've got. So, you know, and like I said, this car, guys, was cheap. It's a cheap car. So I'm just trying to figure out, because I kind of like would love the gauges like right there, right? But the problem is it's just not flush. But that's okay. Maybe it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be flush. But if I can figure out a means here, because if it's like that, that looks good. That's all right. Just need to go like that, right up next to that. The wires are it's gonna be exposed a little bit. Fine, some self tappers. It doesn't need to look beautiful, guys. It just needs to function. But the wires, that's the thing. So basically, this project's really just running wires, which at least not one of my favorite things to do, honestly. So I might just like drill, see where these little holes go, maybe put some holes in. You want to make sure that you don't drill near the airbag. I'm just trying to think, because like, I guess it could go. I just think that's the best place. It kind of gives me an idea of where everything is. It looks pretty good. I'm not like stretching to look around. I like that. So I think what I'm going to do is just get the drill out, pop some holes, bleep, bleep, and see what's going on here. And then run some wires. I don't really want to take the dash off because it's actually really difficult, especially in the cold. So I might just try to bloop, bloop, zip, and then run wires down. Probably take out this, because you got to take how this car works to get this part off, because it's all bolted in. You got to take your glove box out. It's such a pain. You got to take the glove box out, which means you got to move all these tools out, and then you can get the stereo part out. And then this exposes all this area, which is, there's a bunch of space in here. I'm going to probably run my wires down, and then I'm going to try to find some way to fish. Basically, this is going to be the trickiest part. I might have to go the other way. This hooks into your OBD2 sensor. That's going to go where the engine is, or the downpipe is. But I could probably just fish through that little, that might be easier. Just fish through this little guy. But the problem is everything's all wired up, so I'm going to just play around with it. I might just try to punch this thing through somewhere and fill it in with some foam or something, or find a place where it can fit. So there is a O2 heater, and you can bypass the heater because sometimes there's a switch in this that if it drops a certain voltage, it will turn the heater off to the O2 sensor, which is not good, because if the O2 sensor drops below a certain temperature, it doesn't work and you won't get a reading. So I have this wired so that the heater stays on until it reaches temperature and turns off, no matter what the voltage is. Because a lot of race cars and stuff will just run a battery, and the battery reads a 12 volt, or 11.8 volt or whatever when you're going through a race, and you're not charging because you don't have a charging system. So you can bypass that, and that's what I did. So basically, it will always turn on. Don't need a certain voltage, which is kind of tricky with these rigs that are running, IMA lists, so they're running a PSU. So anyways, I'm gonna tear into this. I think best bet is gonna just drill some holes, start seeing what's going on down here, and then that's basically how I want it. Maybe a couple self-tappers, hold that puppy down so she doesn't move around. I don't really care if it looks flush or not. Probably could make it flush if I cut out this part. I don't really want to cut too much, so I just want to kind of place to run the wires, and we'll go from there. Some good news, not some bad news. So good news is running the wire down. As you can see, I cut a hole, and what I'm going to do is, once this is nice and flush, I'm going to drill that in where I like it, and I'll just get some like expanding foam, fill it in. Then I'll sculpt this, maybe use a little bit of body weld or something to make it look nicer. I can fix that. That's no big deal. I'm not worried about that. So that's all set, and the wires are coming down. You can tell it's all torn apart. So I've got the back line here. These things got to make it under the get through the firewall somehow. So I got to find a hole. Don't mind. This is all mouse deterrent. We had a mouse problem when I first got this car. And then these are positive, negative, and these will tie right into the positive, negative of the stereo, which I've got plenty of wire to go into, and then I'll do that. In theory, the car will power up. The lights will, the gauge will power up with the stereo, no big deal. And if I have an issue with fuses, I might just put a bigger fuse in, but I don't think it'll be, I think we'll be all right, because I think the stereo fuse is pretty hot, pretty heavy duty, so we'll be good there. And yeah, so we gotta figure out a home for this, and then this got to get under, go through the firewall, and then that'll be set for the O2 sensor hookup when it's time to hook everything up. I'm gonna look around, see if there's a place I can punch through. I'm gonna look in the other side and see if there's a place I can punch through and I can see that light, and then we'll sneak everything through. So we found a spot which looks like that's going to fit the hose and everything nicely. So that's where we're going to go through, right there. I'll see if I can't see it from the inside and push those things through, and then we'll have, buddy, a place to move the wires through the firewall. All right, it's cold. Okay, so I got it through the firewall. So that'll clip in to where the O2 sensor is. Boop. This goes on here. That's the boost gauge. Ooh, that's gotta need a zip tie for sure. That's on there, dude. That'll hold. So we got that on, and we got this on. That's gonna go in the O2 sensor. So you just gotta wire in the gauges on the back, on the end, on the car side to get them light up. We're good. So we had an issue with that, came off with glass. Isn't that cute? So I gotta figure this out too. My rear mirror is broken. Add that to the list of things. But there's the gauge cluster. So now we gotta work on wiring in. So I'm gonna just wire into the stereo, hide those wires, bolt everything back up, and we should be golden. That looks pretty good, I'd say. Turn it on. We've got gauge money. There, that's a good spot. Just quickly zip that in with some screws. And that's the countdown. That's the heat up procedure for the wideband. You can tell like that's your Deutsch. There's different gauges in different places, but 14.9. That's just reading out what it's reading. And I got a voltmeter here, which is just what I keep, because sometimes the mean well PSU will cut out, and I like to know when it cuts out. The boost gauge looks really good. Stereo's working, so I'm gonna button this all back together and call this one done. Nice. All right. So. All right. Traffic like crazy. All right, so we got the gauge cluster in. We just gotta plug in the O2 sensor, which will happen when we put the downpipe on. Need these. And yeah, but that's done. Though that part I was kind of freaking out about, and got it done, and it was a little easier than I thought, but we'll see how it goes. All right, next episode, I'm hoping to get some more work done on that downpipe. Still waiting on the sticks to show up so I can build the exhaust manifold. That's gonna be some custom chopping, I think. I think I'm gonna have to just go about it a completely different mindset. I'm just gonna start thinking about how I want it to look. So I might have to do some custom stuff. Think about it. But thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.